end?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am, you are audible.
Yeah. Okay, so I think in the last class we had already talked about how you can introduce yourself. All right. I had taken a class on introduction and CV writing, and also Sneha ma'am had also again repeated the part on introduction, how you are supposed to talk about yourself when the HR asks you, tell us something about yourself. So moving on after that, I would like to address, two particular questions which are very common questions for your managerial round and which you should start preparing right from now. Right now, we are not going into the specifics. We will try to point out which particular keyword you should be including once you get the particular job designation and responsibilities and the details about the domain in which you are going to work. All right. So, in this situation, one of the most important questions is, why would you like to work in our company? In any company that you are applying for, in the final round of interview, you will definitely be asked a question, why would you like to work here? Or why are you interested in this particular position? Right? So, this is one of the very common questions that you should definitely start preparing. And basically, your answer to this question says a lot about all of the most important things that your HR is going to evaluate about you. Okay. Firstly, the kind of skills that you have, okay, technical skills as well as organizational skills and communication skills, different types of skills, the skill sets, they're going to evaluate that. Secondly, whether you are actually interested in this job or whether you are considering this particular placement drive to be just like any other drives, okay? So whether you're interested in the kind of work that you're going to do in future if you are hired, that's the second thing that they're going to figure out. And the third important thing, which we will again discuss later on in details, is the third part, that is what you are going to bring for that organization. When someone is going to hire you, obviously that person or that organization would look forward to, being improved or developed in a certain kind of way, right? He or she would consider you to be a valuable asset to that organization, right? So, what is it that you are going to bring for that particular company or for that team in particular? Okay, because you will definitely be designated into different separate teams where you are going to learn how exactly you are going to work in the practical domain, right? They want specifics. So, even in the last two classes, I think I have mentioned that you cannot give a generic answer, right? You should never give a generic answer in any of the interviews or in any of the discussion rounds, right? So, when the interviewer is asking you something like, why would you want to work here? For example, if someone says, why Microsoft? And why not any other competing organization? That means he or she is not just asking that, why do you want to be in this position? Not just that, but something beyond that. That is, why do you want to be in this position at this organization, specifically addressing the part at this organization, right? They want to know what is keeping you motivated because they're looking for self motivated individuals who will be able to complete their own work within the specified deadline. There is always, you're not going to get some reporting figure who will go on telling you about the deadline, will go on asking you to submit something, or maybe about the report submission. There will always not be that kind of a person who is there. So you will have to do it on your own, and companies obviously prefer self motivated individuals, right? And the next thing is, why this position in particular, with the job responsibilities that they have mentioned already, why it makes more sense and why it is much more interesting, especially for you. You will have to give an individual viewpoint. You cannot just copy paste other people's answers, okay? You need to add something which is personalized. Adding a personalized bit to any answer helps you to get that added leverage, okay? So, firstly, you can try following, one of the main ways in which you can grab the attention of the interviewer. You can tell them what exactly it is that makes you interested in them. Just like they are going to hire you among maybe a talent pool of 100 or 200 other candidates who have made it to the final round, you are also going to appear for the final technical or the managerial round of an organization after you have done your selection, after you have finally decided that, okay, I don't really want to appear for this drive, but I would prioritize and I would prefer company A over B or B over C, because on the same date there may be three different placements in three different organizations, and you are also prioritizing one of the organizations. It is not just that the ball is in their court and they are getting to do, all the important work. It's up to you as well, what you are going to choose for your future, right? So you will have to know exactly why you're interested, not just in order to answer this question, but mainly to figure out why you want to work, or what would motivate you to learn something in the long run, or how exactly will you be expanding on your target or the career goal that you have set for yourself, whether you will be learning something extra, beyond the theoretical knowledge that you have already gathered in the last 4 years. These are kind of related questions which you should be asking yourself, and then jotting down the points accordingly, right? Don't just go about it randomly, and don't try selecting some answer which has already been given by some other candidate. Don't copy paste answers, because when you face an interview round, it's a face to face interview, be it online or be it offline. So your behavior pattern and each and everything, your gesture, your expression, each and everything, the whole presentation reflects whether it is just rote learning, or whether you are actually talking about what you're convinced in, what you believe in, right? So make sure you believe in something that you're talking about, because if you're just faking it for the sake of getting through a round, the interviewers will definitely understand and you will not make it to the next round. Okay, you will not get selected. So I'm sure no one wants that, right? None of you want that to happen. So make sure you're just asking yourself, why is it that I would like to appear for Microsoft? For example, I mean, that is just one company out of many other companies. I'm talking about in general, whichever it is, XYZ, okay? Just specify what is it about that organization, whether it's the work culture, whether it is the, technological development, or whether it is the incorporation of new technology in the recent times, or whether it is their diversity initiative, or some event that has definitely caught your attention in the recent past, or maybe, the kind of people that you would get to work with, the kind of networking that you would have. So it is not just limited to your own domain. It can definitely go beyond your own technical domain, because let me tell you, after a certain point of time, like after your BTech degree, it no longer matters whether you are from a particular branch or specialized in a particular area. It no longer matters, believe me, because when you go in for your higher studies, MS, MTech, MBA, or maybe when you're going in for maybe research, some of you, or maybe others who are going into the professional training programs, it is not going to be just it's not going to be just completely focused on one particular skill set or one subject. Okay, it's going to be a vast expanse, and which would require you to be multidisciplinary in most of the situations. So yeah, it's good for you if you get to understand what exactly from other fields, related domains, you would get to learn while you are trying to be an integral part of that company, right? That would help you to stay motivated, and that would also help you to produce better results before the deadline, right? So these are certain things which you can try thinking about. Yeah, is someone asking a question? Just a minute, I would. Yeah. Yes. Actually, my voice is getting echoed, so maybe you can keep yourselves on mute until and unless you have any question as such. Okay? In case you have a question, you can definitely unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, maybe you can keep yourself on mute. So, yeah. So you need to spend some time thinking about the major factors which you can incorporate into your pitch. I think I had talked about elevation pitch. I think I had talked about elevation pitch when we were doing the classes in the first year, especially with the CS batches, right? So, what exactly is elevation pitch? Anyone from CS? Yeah? Can anyone tell me what exactly is an elevator pitch? The BCS students who are here? None of you.
I think a short description of an idea, product, or company.
Yeah, so what is the main thing about it? I mean, why exactly is it important? Yeah,
Basically, it describes the concept in a way that such that if this listener can understand it in a short period of time.
exactly. So you do not get more than 2 minutes, or you don't even get more than 1 minute in certain situations when you are trying to pitch yourself. And this is exactly the reason why it is called elevator pitch in the first instance, right? So you don't get to spend so much of time in an elevator or a lift, right? You just reach the designated floor within maybe a matter of seconds or within a minute, right? So this is the concept which is attached with elevator pitch. So whenever you're trying to pitch an idea or pitch maybe a particular viewpoint to someone or even yourself, your CV, or maybe some other opinion in front of the audience, you would not really get a lot of time. So, time management is really important, and you should know which is the first major thing that needs to be prioritized, especially when it comes to a technical interview or a managerial interview. You do not really get so much of time for each and every answer. And for answers like these, why do you want to work here, or what is it that would keep you motivated, or what do you think will be your working style here, what kind of team would you prefer working in, or what is your weakness, what is your greatest achievement, for any of these very common questions, you are not going to get more than 1 minute. A maximum of 2 minutes, yeah, if the other person who is listening to you gets interested in it, and he or she will definitely indulge in more conversation. So when you appear for yeah, so when you appear for interview, excuse me, could you just keep yourselves on mute? Those who, those who are, Amrita ma'am, could you just look into it? Maybe if the students can be on mute. Yeah. So this is exactly what I was trying to talk about when you're trying to pitch an idea or a viewpoint or trying to answer a question like why Microsoft or why this company XYZ. You can say something, but try to keep it very extremely prioritized. It should be according to the level of significance. If you think one particular point is extremely important, that should not really come at the conclusion. That should be your starting point. You should know how to introduce and how to keep that other person who is hearing you engaged in the conversation. So when you appear for the final round of interview, maybe after the first two, three interviews, you yourself will be able to analyze whether you have performed well or not. Right. Yeah, maybe in the first two interviews, you might not really be able to understand in which tangent it has gone. But after a certain period of time, when you start analyzing their behavior, sometimes you will see that the HR keeps on indulging and asks you a lot of questions about your achievements, a lot of questions about what exactly you have done in a particular project, and seems very interested in something that you are saying. It can be with regard to any particular question. Okay, that is to say, he or she spends a lot of time or invests a lot of time in you. That means the person is interested and you have really performed well. Okay, so you can take that as a yes from their end when you see that as a sign. When you see that they want to know more about something that you have said, that means you are going to get selected. And at other times, you will just see that, they stop you mid sentence. That means you will have to analyze that and answer accordingly for the next question. If you have been stopped mid sentence, means you have been saying something very generic. You haven't really done your background research, you haven't really tried to be specific, and that is why the other person has cut you short in between, because he or she has heard that answer from many other candidates, over and over again. Right. So this is something that they do not really want to hear, because they know that, everyone will be prepared with the questions in their own ways, and they will be taking help from different other available resources online as well as offline. Right. So try to add something that is personalized. That always helps you to get selected, to get noticed, and that definitely helps in grabbing the attention of the person to whom you're talking. It makes him or her feel special. Him or her referring to, the entire organization, because definitely that person is the representative of that organization during an interview round. Right. So it is always very impressive when you have done your own homework, but especially with the top 500 or the Fortune 500, the big companies. And the best thing about this is you rarely have to go beyond reviewing the website, because everything is available in the company's website, in their social media handles. If you can just go through those, you will get an overall idea of which are the areas they want you to focus on. They have already mentioned or highlighted those areas in their website, and that is the area on which you should also be focusing. You will see that there are certain headings, and certain parts which are highlighted and stressed. That means you will have to emphasize on those areas and tell them that, yeah, you have been doing really good work in these fields, and this is something that has motivated me in the recent past. Even during the pandemic situation, I've seen that this kind of, development has been there in any of the domains in which you are going to get placed. So specify the domain as well, and that will help them to understand you have been following their growth. The learning curve or the growth curve has been followed by you, right? So this is again another important thing. And another part which I think I talked about during the CV writing class also, and this comes in useful in this section when you're trying to answer why this company as well, that is you need to try to connect or maintain a link between the skill set that you have. You might have acquired, a whole bunch of different skill sets, but you need to understand for that position which skill is more important. For each and every position, all your skills will not come in handy, right? You might have three different technical skills, one pertaining to maybe one of the programming languages, another pertaining to maybe website designing and development, and another pertaining to digital marketing, or maybe something like robotics and ethical hacking. You may be interested in a whole lot of different areas. And for EC students also, you might be interested, in different areas or different domains which are related, right? But you need to understand what exactly it is about that position. That is why you have to first analyze the job responsibility section which is given to you. When you get this notice from the placement cell, before the placement arrives, a notice is circulated that this company will be coming on this particular date and you should be present here. This is the eligibility criteria, and for this position, and these are the responsibilities, or this is the domain and this is the salary. So everything is mentioned in the circular which is given to all of you, right? So, when you get that, the first thing you should try highlighting or try to find out is that what is it that makes you interested in that position? Not just the company overall, but also that position in particular, right? And then you will be able to figure out which skill set is going to be important and which skill set should be talked about. You don't have to talk about all your skills, right? You can try focusing on one skill which will make you really unique when you're talking about this particular position that you're applying for. And when you're doing that, something that you must do along with saying, about your skills and achievements is that the kind of experience that you have gathered, it is not always, some kind of tangible experience that should be there, because sometimes maybe you are experienced, maybe you have learned from different sources, but possibly you do not really have a certification as such, right? So it is not always possible that you would get yourselves a certificate, but for the CV that matters, only the parts which are certified, only the parts for which you can provide proper evidence or proper documentation, those should appear in your CV, right? But when it comes to an interview round and someone is asking you a question like, okay, so this is the skill set that you have that makes you interested in this position, because, yeah, we are also looking for an individual who would know this particular language, or maybe who would know how to handle this particular software, right? So maybe our technical paths also demand you to work more in this arena. So, what kind of experience do you have? In that case, it is not always important for you to specify some kind of certified or some kind of tangible experience. But sometimes you can also say that I have been learning, I have been trying to work on this or improve, and please mention how you have been doing so. Because randomly just saying that I have been trying to improve will not give them an overall idea as to what you have done. What is it that you have invested in? How much time have you been investing in that, or what has been the development, right? So try to give them an overall idea about the kind of things that you have been doing related to that skill that you are talking about. So being able to link your skill or your achievement with an experience, it can be just one experience set, or maybe, two or three different, but it matters. It definitely helps you to get noticed, right? And also another part that you can try mentioning if you get time, because always it is not possible for you to go on talking about this, but sometimes when they give you more time or they're asking you more about it and they're interested in knowing more, try to say where this role will actually figure or maybe appear in your overall career trajectory, right? So by now you already have a set career goal for yourself, at least a short term goal. I'm not really talking about a long term goal, because, yeah, maybe for the first 2 years, you will be thinking about switching or maybe higher studies or any other thing like a startup, right? But I'm talking about a short term goal about which you already know. And that is why you are motivated, and that's why you're here during this grooming session, first of all, because you want to get selected, you want to get placed, you want a good salary, and you want to do something on your own and create an identity for yourself, right? A professional identity, and be much more well groomed in that field too. So, firstly, you would want to show that the position makes sense for where you are going in your own career graph or your own career trajectory. It is not just important to focus on the growth curve of the company. It is equally important for you to understand your own growth curve, where you were during the first year, and right now in third year where you are, and in fourth year where do you see yourself, right? After 1 year, what exactly, in which position or which responsibility do you find yourself, right? So this is important. You should know your own trajectory, and ideally you won't give the impression that you are just using this position as a stepping stone. The other day I was asking some of the fourth year students, some of them who are still attending the grooming sessions. So I was just asking them, where exactly do you see yourself after 5 years? Okay. So, some of them answered that, okay, I see myself in a managerial position like yours. Okay. Or maybe, considering that this is an HR round. All right. Or maybe, I see myself in a team leader position, because that's how I would like to, use my knowledge. Right. But what is important is they should not feel like, the HR should not feel like you're just using this as a stepping stone. Because sometimes, some of the HRs or some of these recruiters may also feel a bit, I would say, intimidated if you try showing them that, yeah, you actually want their position, so you would not want that to happen. You would want the interaction to be much more cordial, right? So, right at the outset, you do not really want to tell them that I see myself in your position. Yeah, if you do that, most of them will feel like, okay, you are actually using this particular position given to you, and you would not really want to give that impression to anyone, right? So, what you can try doing, I know you might see yourself in a managerial position, and that is exactly what you think about, but try rephrasing the sentence, try restructuring it, and maybe you can tell them that, yeah, 5 years down the line, I think I would have learned a lot because I'll be working in a team where I will get to know more about how it works in the practical domain. And definitely, the knowledge that I will get or gather from here, I would like to give it back to the organization in some way or the other. And therefore, if required, if I'm required to, share knowledge with the newcomers, with the freshers who would join, I would definitely see myself in a better position, being able to guide them, being able to tell them that this is exactly how it works in the professional sector. So that is how you warm up to the HR. You do not just go out there and intimidate them by saying, "Oh, I want your position. I see myself there at the other end." Don't do that, okay? Because the first time you do that, they will definitely just not consider you for that position anymore. They might just say, "Okay, so do you have any other question?" And then after that, you may leave. So, this is one thing that you should learn how to rephrase and restructure your thoughts. Sometimes some of the students just try translating whatever their thoughts are into words, but that does not really help when it comes to the professional field, right? You really need to know how exactly you need to frame the sentences or what will work for them. Always, you cannot really just tell them that this is what is going on in my mind. And especially when it comes to questions like, will it be okay if we are trying to shift you to some other domain, or will you be comfortable working in some other state other than your home state? Or maybe if you are asked to work on days when we have extra workload, will you be able to invest more time? So these are questions to which all of you, even all of us, would definitely say no, even now, right? So when we analyze these questions individually, we would definitely say no. But when I'm talking to the HR or an interviewer, I would not really want that person to feel that, okay, this is a no. I would rather say, yeah, if it is required, if the organization really needs me at that point of time, I would really try my best to provide the kind of support that you need. And maybe for a week, if needed, I will be able to invest more time because they will definitely specify that this is not going to be for maybe an entire 1 year, but when you are required. So, when required, you might have to do it. I mean, even when you want to say a no, it should not be a clear cut no, because if you say that right at the outset, they will feel like you are not motivated enough. You are not really interested in the position, and that's why you are saying no. So don't give them a negative impression. Try to keep it positive. I know it is not always possible to be diplomatic with such answers because mostly you try to be honest with, the work location and all that. And some of you who are really not comfortable with shifting to some other state or some other country or going overseas, you might just tell them that no, I wouldn't really want to, but that does not give a good impression. They feel like this person is already not being flexible. So, how will this person be flexible when we are trying to put him or her across in different domains, in different teams? So, you will have to try to adjust to certain situations. But yeah, also try to keep in mind that there is something called professional ethics and something called the work scenario or the work culture, which you should know about. And don't get exploited even when you are trying to be really good, and not just tell them anything negative. The other part of it, or the other spectrum, also consists of another section, that is exploitation. And when we have another class, maybe later on professional ethics and work ethics, we can talk about that. So you should know the borderline. You should know when to say a no and when not to say a no. Sometimes, when you are really asked to work, even when there is no such work which is for you, but someone else's work, and that person is trying to push that workload on you, you might have to say a no. But that too in a polite way. You cannot just tell them that, oh, I will not do this. But you can tell them that this is not exactly my area or my field of specialization, and I think you are much more skilled at this area because you have been handling this, and I think you will be able to do it better. So play it accordingly. Okay, don't always take out all the grudge on a face to face level, but try to manage, try to adjust, and most importantly, try to be positive. Yeah. So any question till now? Yeah, any question till now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I was asking that when the questions are asked by the interviewer, so we need to follow the idea of elevator pitch
Yeah,
for every
the
questions, short but effective.
yeah, definitely. You will have to keep it short and you will have to prioritize. So, the idea of elevator pitch is exactly that. And you have been practicing that during your first year classes, communication classes, especially in order to, that was to give you an overview of how it works. And now you will have to implement that because you should not, try to stretch an answer unnecessarily. If it is not required after a certain point, you should not keep on droning about that particular aspect. You can maybe try talking about other related aspects, but when you go on stressing one thing over and over again, it becomes repetitive. So, something that is very important in a kind of elevator pitch or in an interview or even in any kind of professional discussion session is that you should know how to summarize, not just during the speaking sessions but also during the writing sessions, right? So when we talk about essay writing later on, exactly how compositions will have to be written or exactly how the role play round would work during a managerial round, or how you should be handling the situation based questions, you will understand that, I mean, this particular part better. Okay. So, when we do this individually, the mock interviews will be conducted individually after a certain point. Right now, I'm not going to ask you to switch on the video because right now you're just getting an idea about the same. So, when you are prepared, maybe by the end of April or by the start of May, when you're prepared already, we will start with your mock interview sessions. Okay. We will be asking you 5 questions or maybe more than that, depending on your performance, and I will try to analyze how you should be answering that particular question. You will have to come up with your own viewpoints, but the first major thing is being able to summarize, and the second major thing is being able to prioritize. These two things are very important. You should know how to keep it short, how to keep it interesting, and how to right at the outset grab the attention of the person who is asking or who is hearing you out. Because if he or she is already spending a lot of time for you or giving you some of his or her precious time, that means he or she would like to hear something important, something interesting, not something which is very common and very generic, and not something which has been told over and over again by the 50 other candidates who have walked into the interview room before you, right? So, try to start off in a good way, just like the introduction of a composition, or maybe the subject of a mail, the part that you highlight, that definitely just right at the outset grabs the attention of anyone who is going through the mail. Similarly, you will have to specify your agenda. So this is what I'm going to talk about, and that should be in an organized way. It should not just be random, not random points here and there. Something that you need to focus on, because some of you, I've seen during your exams, you have really good content, but the point is, you don't really know how to link the first point with the second, or the second point with the third. There's a gap somewhere, and it does not really sound good, because when there is a gap between your first and the second part, there is definitely, I mean, a huge jump. And no one is able to connect exactly why you told the next sentence when the previous sentence is something which is completely different, or in a domain that has nothing to do with the second part. So you should maybe try to figure out a link, right? This is important for each and everything. Whether it is speaking or writing or listening, always try to maintain a proper sequence. It can be a time sequence, it can be an action sequence, it can be a narrative sequence, any kind of sequence that comes to your mind. And according to that sequence that you have, try rearranging and organizing your points so that it sounds like, a complete answer. If you don't have the link, it sounds very incomplete. And that is where you lose your marks, right? Yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
Understood,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
I have one more question. Like sometimes we are nervous, or like sometimes we like know how to answer it but can't like communicate properly, or sometimes we are just nervous. That time we are many times we are trying to like sometimes over speak to it, or sometimes like we are completely on mute, or sometimes like we don't maintain the eye contact or anything like that. In that type of scenarios, what should we do to calm ourselves down and like answer the question confidently?
That will get better with practice. I mean, it is not just an overnight transformation that will happen. It is absolutely normal for each and everyone to feel nervous the first time that you walk into an interview room or the first time you face an online round. I mean, it is absolutely normal. Some people just can, maintain their calm a bit better than others, and some others reflect it via their expressions. That is the basic difference. But I'm sure all the students, be it the topper or be it someone who is moderate, for each and every one of you, it is the same. It's just that you will have to keep practicing, and this is exactly the reason why mock interview sessions are very important. I mean, apart from the mock interview sessions that we are going to have here during class, and apart from all the other, interactive sessions which will happen about the GD rounds and all the other topic discussions, I would also suggest that maybe you can try this out at home. Okay, you can just maybe, even if you have friends coming over to your place, or maybe you can even ask your parents or your siblings, or if no one is available, just use the mirror. Okay, so try to consider that you are addressing the audience. Okay, and then try seeing what exactly is their reaction. So when you speak confidently, when you try practicing this at home, you don't have to invest more than 5 minutes. Trust me, 5 minutes is quite a long time, okay, for preparation of this kind. So if you just maybe initially start with reading just any passage that interests you, any kind of passage from any domain that you like, it can be from any domain. Okay, maybe any current affairs section or any research section, or maybe even the sports part, entertainment part, something that interests you, or maybe even a newspaper report. Just read it out, and when you're reading it out, try to focus more on your pronunciation, focus more on the voice modulation part. Try to see if the pitch is okay, if you're varying your tone every now and then, if you're emphasizing the points, which should be highlighted. And then when you try presenting the same thing and you are doing it out loud, you try to analyze yourself, you try to understand, and you get over your nervousness. So this is how it starts, because right now you're not being able to interact in a big group, right? But when it happens, for the first time, it will be a bit difficult, I'm sure. But after that, after the first couple of interviews, things will be a lot more in place. You will already get an idea of, okay, these are the questions, these 5 questions will definitely be asked, and I will be prepared in this manner. So you just need to tell yourself that, okay, this is just another exam. I have appeared for a lot of exams during my engineering degree. You can just keep reminding yourself about that. There has been, I think, MTAs and assignment submissions and projects and ESs and whatnot, a lot of exams in these 3 years. And then the fourth year too, you'll be having a lot of other assignment submissions. So you already have been doing this for quite a while, and this is just another exam, just that it is again connected to your future career goal or the trajectory that we were talking about. But that does not mean it's the be all and end all of your life. Even if you don't get selected in one interview, there will be 5 other interviews which will be upcoming in the next 5 months, right? So you can just tell yourself that, okay, I'm here to learn. I would definitely use the experience that I'm going to get from here, from this room. And after that, I'll be using that for my next interview. And when you keep reminding yourself about that, you will see that your performance level is automatically better because you are not under stress, you are not pressurized. So the first major thing is to just calm down and tell yourself not to be pressurized in spite of this really competition, I mean the competitive world out there and the pressure that is evidently there. You can just try calming yourself down. That is exactly what you can try doing. But yeah, I mean there
Yeah,
is
ma'am,
no
got your
shortcut to
point.
this.
Yeah,
No
ma'am, got
shortcut.
your point. And just I have one suggestion from my end, that the mock interviews and the mock GD rounds which we will conduct in the future, if everyone agrees with me, if that mock interviews can conduct in offline mode, that I think would be very helpful for us. If that session can conduct in offline, that's
So
just
we can
one
do
suggestion
that.
from myself,
Yeah,
my
I
side.
think we can, yeah, we can at least start off with the mock interviews online so that you get habituated with the online mode as well. Because right now, all the corporates haven't yet started with offline mode. Okay. You might be facing certain online rounds also in the first few months. So you should know exactly how to, use the platform that you should be using, or where to look at the camera and not look elsewhere, or how exactly you should be, using the technical details also. That also matters. So maybe in the first few weeks, we can start with the online sessions and we can ask you to unmute yourselves and switch on the video and try answering the questions. Once you're comfortable with that, we will definitely start off with it in offline mode because all the classes have anyway started on offline mode. So I'm pretty sure we can do that accordingly, right? That shouldn't be much of a
Yes,
problem.
ma'am, no problem. That would be great.
Yeah. You're in a transition phase where you will have to be good at online as well as offline because everything has not yet shifted offline and everything is not yet held online. So, being very versatile in both the modes, hybrid mode for your batch is very important. Yeah. And some of the companies also use interfaces like, MS Teams. So maybe you can try seeing how exactly that works also. Because one fine day, if someone tells you that you will have to install MS Teams and you will have to give an interview or GD round will be held there, you will automatically get panicked. So try getting acquainted with the different interfaces because MS Teams is, I think, preferred by Microsoft. And in the last 2 years, they were conducting this on MS Teams. And some of the students who did not really have much idea about the interface had some technical issues. So maybe you can try learning that on your own. And the other companies usually prefer WebEx as their preferred platform because this is much more official. And Google Meet is not used by any of the organizations. No, I haven't really seen that in the recent past. So yeah. Yeah, so any other question from your end? Any other student who has any other question about the things we were talking about? We actually tried addressing the question, why would you like to join our organization? And related to that particular question, I think I talked about certain other things which are going to be helpful if you try focusing on those and try to improve yourselves accordingly. But mainly, we tried to answer the structure. I was talking about the basic structure which you should be following while talking about why this company, okay, or why have you preferred us over 100 other companies which are there in the market, right? So this is what we were talking about in today's class. I hope you have understood what I was trying to tell you.
Yes,
Have
ma'am,
you?
got your point.
Yeah, just one response and others did not
Yes, ma'am.
understand. 99 others,
Ma'am, it is
Yes,
well
ma'am. Got it.
comprehended.
or
Got it,
that
ma'am.
one student just saying, I have understood with 99 others. Is that how it works? Yeah, some of you are actually really silent. Are you even understanding? If you are not, please feel free to ask because until and unless you ask me questions, I would not really know what doubts you have. So it's high time that you try clarifying the parts which you are not very good at, and try improving in those areas, because just after maybe 2 more months you will be in the final year, and you would not have time for anything, just for nothing. You would have to appear for placements every alternate week. Okay, so it's high time that you try focusing on these basics and structural parts right now, so that you have everything in place already, ready for different rounds which will be conducted. And meanwhile, there will be ESA also. So try getting yourselves ready from now on, I would suggest. Uh, yeah, okay then. So, Amrita ma'am, I think if they don't really have any other doubt, can we round up the
Ma'am,
session?
Yes,
when
yes,
will our
absolutely.
mock GD rounds be held?
Yeah, yeah, sure. We are going to conduct mock GDs, mock PIs, and also, the role play rounds that I was talking about. In certain managerial rounds, they assign you with certain situations and tell you, okay, this is the role that we have given. Suppose you are the team leader, and suppose I have joined in your team. I'm a newcomer. So this is the work that you will have to divide between three of us, the HR panel members. They can give you things like that also. So we are not just going to focus on mock GDs and mock interviews. We will also do the mock sessions related to the different other parts or the formalities which are held during any other managerial interview round. So since these are just general grooming sessions right now, we are focusing on the different areas with specific regard to one company. And again, the next company comes up, we will focus more on that. But before that, we would prefer getting, the notice circulated, so that you already know about the job designation, your responsibilities, what exactly you are supposed to do, and how you will be selecting the keywords, because most of the keywords will also be mentioned there, right? So keyword selection is a very important process which helps a lot in the long run. Okay.
Ma'am,
So
can you please tell us from when our mock technical interviews will be held?
I think Amrita ma'am will be able to tell you about the technical rounds, because the faculty is concerned, they will be conducting the technical interviews,
Your
right?
technical rounds will be held like not right before Microsoft. I think for 1 week or 10 days we'll be having some technical sessions, and after that, before your TCS digital interview happens, we'll be having quite a few. There will be multiple, and that will be department wise.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, I'm having a question that suppose like we are facing a questions from in like managerial round, like for a related to particular position, like suppose in Microsoft only we're applying for like for a software engineer, or suppose a tech support. So if they ask that why you want to join in this position, so how should you formulate the answers? Can you please give examples?
Yeah, for that, what I have already asked you to do is to go through the website, the official website of Microsoft. If you have gone through it, you will see that there are certain areas which are highlighted, certain headlines which are already there, under which they have categorized exactly what they prefer. Right? Even the technical events have been talked about, the recent reports have been mentioned, a flexible dynamic environment which focuses more on not just individual growth but community growth. These things are already mentioned. But if you haven't yet gone through that, maybe you can go through it. And in the next class, what we can try doing is we can have a discussion on the keywords related specifically to Microsoft. Okay, so this can be maybe a kind of assignment for you if you consider that to be so, or maybe a kind of homework where you just note down certain sections, write it down somewhere, or maybe just keep track of it, at least 5 to 10 different keywords from the website after you have read it thoroughly. Right. So if you have already done that, some of you I think have already done that, because I was getting questions in the previous class also related to keyword selection. We can have a brief discussion on that during the start of the next class, and we can move on to the next topic, right? Because I think this class is supposed to end at around 12:30, and right now if we launch into a discussion of keywords, it will not really be able to wrap it up within the specified time. So yeah.
I
Thank
had
Okay,
you
a
very
we
question.
much,
can.
ma'am. I think today's class was very good. And thank you, students, for attending. If you have any other questions, maybe in the next 3 4 minutes, we can take them. Otherwise, we'll close the class. Thank you.
Yeah,
I had a
we can.
question.
No, ma'am. Right now we don't have any question.
Samai had a question.
Yeah, definitely.
Ma'am, if the
So it's
interviewer
a
asks
very
us that
confident
tell
that
me something about
everyone doesn't
tell me
have
something
question.
about yourself. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Could you repeat
If the
yourself?
Yes, if the interviewer asks us that tell me something about yourself, and we have presented our CV already to them, so should we mention the points which we have already mentioned in our CV, or should we elaborate our skills?
You don't have to start with an elaboration of your skills right at the outset. That will come in much later. They will definitely ask you about your skill, or in any other way, they will get to know about your skill when you're talking about your strength, or what do you think is your strength. Why do you think you will be an integral part of this organization, or why should we hire you? Whenever such questions come up during the interview process, you should be able to address your skill, right? So, right at the outset, if you start with skill, it will become very boring and very repetitive. And no one would want to know about you just talking about your skills when you're introducing, right? Rather, you can just keep it short. You can mention the most important details. Yeah, even if it is important and mentioned in your CV already, if you think it is very important, you can mention that. Or maybe if you really want to brand yourself in a particular way, right? If you want to show them that this is exactly what I am looking for, or this is exactly what should make you interested in me, that is something that you can start with. That can be an opening sentence. Apart from that, you can talk about certain areas which are also not mentioned, and don't just start elaborating with the first question, okay? That will come in. I mean, once you try talking about yourself, the next question will be, okay, so what project you have done? What is your achievement? Or why are you interested in this position? So that will come in just as the second or the third question. And from there, you can take it up and talk about your skills. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
I was, yeah, elevator pitch mechanism. Follow that. Summarize. Don't say each and everything for each and every answer. Try to segregate that this is the part I would like to tell for the introduction part. This is the part which I would like to focus more when I would talk about my achievement. And when I talk about some related project, this other part I'm going to segregate and talk about, because if each and every answer is going to be overlapping or intersecting with one of the other answers, it's not going to be fruitful enough. You should know how exactly you can divide. I'm sure you have a lot of skills, but you cannot just tell them at one go. That's it. Yeah,
Okay, ma'am. Right.
right. Okay, so the next question.
I have a question. Yes, my question was, ma'am, okay,
Yeah,
the field which we will be getting into this company, and right now, like college, placements are usually
yeah.
software development or engineering, right? But
The team
and
that you'll be getting, could you just repeat yourself once?
it said that the positions we will be
Actually, your
getting
voice is
hired.
getting a bit muffled. Maybe you can use the chat box. Neha, just use the chat box and mention the question. You are not properly audible. Your voice
Am
is
I
lagging a
audible
bit.
now?
Yeah, now it's fine. Yeah,
Okay, so I was saying that the positions for which we will be getting hired are usually IT related, or it's either IT support or software engineering or whatever it is, right? Now, like I have experience, but not in this field. The like I have experience mostly. I have more than a 1 year experience in event managing, and then I have 1 year of experience in B2C communications. Okay. So, how am I? Now, I have a basic knowledge of how this corporate world works. Like, I have the corporate, or should I say, exposure for like more
yeah,
than 2 years now. So, how am I
right.
going now? My work, what I have experienced, is nothing related to what job I am going to apply for this upcoming
Yeah,
companies in the
I
college
got
that
it.
will come.
So, how will you place the different kind of experience that you have in this position that demands you to be much more technically sound, but you do not really have technical knowledge, you have the corporate knowledge. That's what you're asking, right? Yeah. So, in that question, the question that you have asked me, you have already answered it. You yourself have answered it. You have said that, yeah, I have a basic knowledge about how the corporate world works. So, this is exactly how you should be approaching this question or this particular area that you would want to focus on, because any kind of experience that you have as a fresher counts. Okay. Even if it is in some other domain, even if it is not exactly in that technical position, but you have a basic idea about the corporate work structure, about the corporate social responsibilities, the CSR section. So even these things matter. I mean, this is just a basic part of the entire other things that you're going to learn. Technical skill is not the only skill that they're looking for, right? So you can start in that way, that although I do not really have much experience in this particular domain, but I would say I know quite a bit at least about how the corporate world works, because I have been working in the domains which you mentioned, the event management, the B2C communication. So you can mention that, and you can tell them that I have got an idea about how to work in a team, or about the deadlines, about the submissions, or about how I'm supposed to present a particular topic in front of the audience, or how I should be handling more clients in a proper way. So even when I can, work more on my technical skills, because definitely you're going to be trained in the technical section. No one is expecting a fresher to be 100% technically sound. All of you will go through a probationary period where you're going through this either learning program or training program, whatever it is called for different other companies, induction program basically. So they will be teaching you the technicalities. Apart from that, having an added, idea about the corporates, that's definitely important and it counts. So make it count by approaching it in this way. You have answered yourself, no problem. So, yeah, I hope that answers the question you asked. And also, maybe you can try also specifying maybe one situation in which you have handled pressure. So you can come up with things like, I know how to work under pressure because during the event management sessions that I was volunteering in or working in during my college years, this is exactly what I have handled. Give them an example. So that will pretty much, give them an idea that you are not just talking about a theoretical idea of it, but you already have lived that, kind of lived experience is being shared. So that's going to be important. Yes. Sorry, I can't hear you again. You are not audible. Okay. Anyways, so okay, Amrita ma'am, I think that's it
Yes,
about
ma'am.
today's class.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, students. I'll again see you again in the next session, hopefully. Okay. If you have any other question, we can start with that in the next class with the doubt clearing session, right? Okay. Thanks then. I'll leave the meeting.